The scorching sun hung over the crowded streets of Manila as 14-year-old Rafa, Dela Cruz weaved through the rows of market stalls, his small hands gripping a wooden box filled with wrenches, screwdrivers, and pliers. His shirt clung to his thin frame, drenched in sweat, while his tattered flip-flops slapped against the cracked pavement. "Tools for sale. Brand new. Cheap only," he shouted in a hoarse voice that cracked between exhaustion and adolescence. No one turned. Vendors were busy shouting louder, and the few who looked at him only waved him away. It had been a long day. Rafa hadn't eaten since sunrise, and the coins in his pocket weren't enough for dinner. Still, he forced a smile. His mother always said, "When life gets hard, smile anyway, Anik." God loves a brave heart. But his mother was gone now. So was his father, both victims of a typhoon that had swallowed their fishing village 2 years ago. Since then, Rafa had moved to the city to live with his aging aunt, who sold snacks by the roadside. She could barely make enough for both of them, so Rafa helped however he could, fixing things, selling tools, and sometimes singing in jeepneys for spare change. That's where people first noticed his voice. One night, after selling tools, he climbed onto a jeepney, clutching his small, battered radio. He started singing, "You Raise Me Up," softly, his voice trembling at first but growing strong and clear with each note. The passengers turned one by one. A woman started crying quietly. A man recorded him on his phone. That video went viral. Within a week, Rafa's face was everywhere, on Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. "Poor boy with angelic voice sings in jeepney," the headline read. Offers came pouring in, including one that seemed too unbelievable to be real, an audition for America's Got Talent. When Rafa received the invitation, he didn't know what to think. "Auntie, do you think it's real?" he asked, eyes wide. His aunt squinted at the letter. "It says NBC," she murmured. "Anik, maybe this is your chance." It took weeks of paperwork, interviews, and sponsorship help from kind strangers online, but soon Rafa found himself boarding a plane for the first time in his life. He wore a donated jacket 2 sizes too big, clutching a photo of his parents in his pocket. As the plane took off, he pressed his forehead to the window, whispering, "Ma, Pa, I'll make you proud." Los Angeles, USA, the AGT stage. The studio was freezing compared to the humid streets Rafa knew. He stood backstage, trembling, not from the cold, but from nerves. Cameras swiveled around, producers whispered into headsets, and other contestants practiced lines, dances, and tricks. Rafa felt like a small pebble among mountains. A kind stage assistant knelt beside him. "You okay, sweetheart?" Rafa nodded, though his voice quivered. "I'm just scared." "That's normal," she smiled. "Just sing from your heart. The world already loves you." The giant golden letters of America's Got Talent gleamed ahead as the curtain parted. His chest tightened. The stage looked enormous, lights blazing, audience cheering, 4 judges waiting. Simon Cowell sat in the center, watching him with his usual unreadable expression. Beside him were Sofia Vergara, Howie Mandel, and Heidi Klum, all smiling politely. Rafa's hands shook as he clutched the microphone. "Hello there, young man," Sofia said warmly. "What's your name, and where are you from?" I'm Rafael Dela Cruz," he stammered. "I'm 14, from the Philippines." The crowd erupted in cheers. "Welcome to AGT, Rafael," Simon said, leaning forward. "What will you be doing for us today?" "I'll be singing, sir." Simon nodded. "And why did you choose this song?" Rafa took a deep breath, glancing up toward the lights. "Because it's the song my mom used to sing to me when I was scared. She's in heaven now, but I feel like she's here with me." The theater went quiet. Even the judges softened. "Take your time, Rafael," Heidi said gently. "We're all with you." Rafa nodded. Then, with trembling fingers, he lifted the microphone and began. The first notes of "You Raise Me Up" floated into the silence. His voice, soft as a whisper at first, carried something raw and pure. Each note trembled with emotion, as if pulled from his soul. When he hit the chorus, something happened. His voice grew stronger, soaring over the hall, filling every corner with warmth and pain and hope. The audience leaned forward, tears welled in the eyes of strangers. "You raise me up, so I can stand on mountains." His tone wavered slightly on the high note, but instead of breaking, it shimmered with honesty. He wasn't performing. He was remembering his mother's laughter, his father's hands fixing their small boat, the storms that took everything. Simon's eyes softened, his usual sharp demeanor melting into quiet awe. Sophia covered her mouth. Heidi wiped away a tear. And when Rafa reached the final verse, he stepped away from the mic, lifted his face to the lights, and sang like a boy who had finally found freedom. When the last note faded, the audience rose in thunderous applause. Some people were sobbing openly. Rafa blinked in disbelief. He looked around, overwhelmed, his small hands trembling as he clutched the microphone. Thank you, he whispered. Simon leaned forward, his voice low and emotional. Rafael, I've heard thousands of singers, but what you just did, he paused, taking a breath, was pure heart. You didn't just sing the song. You lived it. The crowd erupted again. Heidi added, you made us all feel your story. You have a gift, young man. Sophia was wiping tears. You reminded us why music is powerful. It heals. And you, my dear, have healed something in us today. Howie looked at Simon and nodded. This boy doesn't just deserve a yes, he deserves the world to hear him. The room fell silent again as Simon glanced at the golden buzzer. He looked back at Rafa, who stood trembling, still clutching his box of tools backstage, which he had brought as a reminder of where he came from. Simon smiled faintly. You know what, Rafael? You sold tools back home, right? Rafa nodded shyly. Yes, sir. Well, Simon said, you just sold us all on your heart. And with that, Simon Cowell slammed the golden buzzer. Dash dash dash. Golden confetti burst from above, raining down in dazzling streams of gold. Rafa gasped, covering his mouth with both hands as tears streamed down his cheeks. The audience cheered wildly, chanting his name. He dropped to his knees, clutching the microphone, crying and laughing at once. The stage assistant ran out and hugged him tightly. You did it, sweetheart. You did it. Simon walked up to the stage, placing a hand on Rafa's shoulder. You remind me, Simon said quietly so only Rafa could hear, that talent isn't just about skill, it's about soul. And you've got both. Rafa couldn't speak, he only nodded, his lips trembling. Thank you, sir. For my mom. Simon smiled gently, she'd be proud. Dash dash dash. Weeks later, the semifinals. The buzz around Rafael grew overnight. Millions watched his performance online. Celebrities shared his video. Donations poured in for his aunt back home. But for Rafa, fame still felt like a dream. During rehearsals, he often sat alone, clutching his parents' photo, whispering, I hope you see me. For the semifinal performance, producers suggested he choose a modern pop song. But Rafa shook his head. Can I sing something from my father this time? They agreed. That night, he stood under a single spotlight and sang, Fix You, by Coldplay. His soft voice broke during the line, Lights will guide you home, and for a moment, he couldn't continue. But the crowd began clapping rhythmically, urging him on. He smiled through tears and finished the song with a trembling whisper. And I will try to fix you. The entire theater was on its feet again. Sophia was openly crying. I can't even speak, she said. Every time you sing, it's like we're watching a miracle. Simon simply said, you are a once-in-a-lifetime voice, Rafael. Dash dash dash. Finals night. The world watches. The night of the finals, millions tuned in. Back in the Philippines, people gathered in cafes and public squares, waving flags and cheering for the boy from the market who had captured the world's heart. Rafa wore a simple white shirt and jeans, he didn't want anything fancy. This is how my parents would remember me, he said quietly. His final song choice stunned everyone, an original song he wrote himself titled, Home in the Sky. The lights dimmed, the soft strum of a guitar began. His lyrics spoke of storms, loss, and finding hope again. The melody swelled, his voice pure and steady. Greater than, I was just a boy with a box of tools. Fixing hearts, not knowing the rules. But when I sang to the empty sky, I heard my parents' lullaby. People wept in silence. When he finished, there was a heartbeat of stillness, then an explosion of cheers. The judges were standing again, but this time, even Simon wiped a tear from his eye. That, Simon said, his voice cracking, was perfection. Howie leaned forward. No matter what happens tonight, Rafael, you've already won. You've changed lives. Dash dash dash. After the show, Rafa didn't win the grand prize. But it didn't matter. The world already knew his name. Offers came from record labels, charities offered to fund his education, and fans sent thousands of messages saying his songs gave them hope. When he returned to the Philippines, cameras followed him through the airport. But Rafa didn't care about the fame. He ran straight into his aunt's arms, sobbing, "Auntie, we did it." That night, they went back to the same small house, where his mother's photo hung on the wall. Rafa lit a candle and whispered, "Ma, Pa, I sang for you. We're okay now." He picked up his guitar and sang softly, his aunt listening from the kitchen. Outside, the neighborhood kids gathered at the window, watching the boy who came home a hero. And though he was no longer selling tools, Rafa never forgot the streets, the heat, or the hunger. He started a small foundation to help street kids who dreamed of singing too. His motto was simple: "You don't need a stage to shine, just a heart that dares to sing." Years later, during an interview, a journalist asked, "Rafael, what do you remember most from that night when Simon hit the golden buzzer?" He smiled softly. "I remember hearing my mom's voice in my heart. She used to tell me, 'When life breaks you, sing louder.' So that's what I did." He paused, looking into the distance. "I sang louder, and somewhere, in the quiet corners of the world, a poor boy's song still echoed, reminding everyone that even the smallest voice can lift the heaviest hearts."